Record what you can when you can. So, this is going to seem a little weird. Well, from my perspective, this is going to feel weird. From your perspective, there's going to be kind of a cause to effect, as the second season of Wolf's Den proper is going to be all of the smaller games. So all the ones that don't really fit theme, and then the Trails reviews, which I have already recorded, are going to be what I end up going with for the rest of this. So today I am of course talking about Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Yes. So, from what I understand, this is obviously a part of the Digimon Story series, which apparently we actually have gotten in two games that I have never played, specifically the DS Digimon World games, Dusk and Dawn. Now, admittedly, I do like this. I Let me just go ahead and say this. This is probably going to be a short one, but don't mistake that for quality. I fucking adore this game. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is what I like to call an entry level into a franchise. In other words, you could actually go into this one not knowing next to nothing about Digimon, and you could actually learn more about the Digimon setting. Even if like me, are not well versed in the greater Digimon storyline, I mean, and only really know the animes, not counting the X of the one that was about the X parasites. That CG movie. You know that one was tied into the main plot, but all of the other ones were, of course, Digimon Adventure, Digimon Tamers, Frontier Savers, all that. Cyber Sleuth is very interesting because it kind of eases you into all the stuff with the Royal Knights and all of that stuff. I don't know if it's the same continuity as I don't know if this is the main continuity, Hoodie, with Alphamon, with everything to do with Alphamon and everything. But it is more in line with those rather than anything, which is also kind of funny given the Omnimon's role in this one, but I digress. Let's start with the gameplay, though. This is what I want from a Digimon game, gameplay wise. Don't give me any of that stupid, convoluted nonsense that the Digimon World series tried to pull. Oh, right? Don't give me convoluted combat. Don't give me this fucking raising my Digimon, having to take them to the bathroom, fucking having them smack a fucking wood plank until their attack goes up, or any of that kind of shit. And also, they digivolve at random times because fuck you. No, let me have a bit of control over what my Digimon digivolves into, and all that. Oh, I mean, hell, I even have control over whether or not my frickin' Pokemon evolves. And everybody says, that everybody, uh, and that's the franchise that everybody compares Digimon to. Now, it's obviously way different. I mean, Pokemon actually had before this game. Pokemon actually had the better evolution system. Yeah, I fucking said it. I'm not gonna apologize for fucking saying that. Now, granted, again, I can't speak to the DS Digimon World games, so the story games might have always have had, this superior Digivolution system. Because see, here's how the Digivolution works in this one. Okay, hey, you level up your Digimon, they gain stats, and once they reach specific requirements, they can digivolve to a different form. So, for example, let's say you get your Chem Index up to 10, and with Agumon, and I forget what stats he needs, and he's got enough stats, and he's level 16, so now you can turn him into Greymon. But you don't have to turn him into Greymon. I think you can. I forget what all tree it has. I'll probably have some footage showing the field guide, which is an awesome feature, by the way, with the field guide kind of showing the digivolutions and whatnot. Won't show you the requirements, but again, but there's a lot of there's a lot of depth and complexity. Never mind the fact that you could digivolve up to this one form, and then as long as you have at least you have the forms in your field guide already, you can actually have a Digimon go down and go up one path, down another path, which then allows that Digimon to go up another path, a completely different path, and then from there go back down through a completely different route, and so on and so forth. You are not limited. There isn't really that much limitations when it comes to the Digivolution system. Is it a bit limited at first? Yes, but it's the Final Fantasy V approach to limitation. You start limited, but then but the toy box constantly expands. Hence, right? The only real limitations you have for the getting higher and higher powered Digimon is the party memory limit, because every Digimon takes up a specific space in your party memory, right? So, for example, let's say you have, I believe it's rookies take up 8, champions take up 16, um, ultimates take up 24, and I want to say, hey, megas take up like 30 or 40, right? So that's kind of a whoa, but at the same time, that then makes that actually leads to some necessary strategic planning. Okay, do I want to have an ultimate? I only have space for an ultimate, a champion, and an ultimate and two champions. Do I want for like two ultimates and three champions? Do I want five champions so I have so I can have? Do I want six champions so I can have three reserves, or do I want? Or do I want those two ultimates in the front so that I have power up front, and then I can blast the enemy and I can blast the enemy that way, right? Which actually is kind of funny because that actually segues nicely into combat, because combat is, of course, the pure turn-based system, which I used to dog in FF10, but I don't anymore. I'm pretty sure I talked about that during FF10, and you obviously won't know until season 3 of Wolf's Den, but that's beside the point. Um, but yeah, no, you know, because you have your party members in the front, right? Right? You can have up to 11 max, period. Okay, no matter what your memory limit is, you can only have 11 party members in your active party. Now, this doesn't mean you have 11 freaking characters on the board all the time. No, you have you have three that are your main battle unit. Then the other 8 are in reserve. So what will happen is okay. Let's say you're out of revives. And one of your Digimon goes down. Okay, well, you can actually do a change, and you can actually swap that character out for one of your reserve Digimon, and have your full party keep going. Well, what happens if all of my frontline people are knocked out, Blue Wolf? They go into the reserve, and the next 3 come forward. If those 3 get knocked out, the next 3 come out. Those 3 get knocked out, the next 3 come out. Second, third, yeah. So the second one gets wiped out. Then the third group of three comes out. Then if those three get knocked out, two of them will be replaced with the last two reserves, and then it's game over if you run out of reserves. Which hope you're saving often because that will actually help. Also, this game has multiple save slots, so that helps. It's only got three, which is a bit on the I'm not a big fan of that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's still got multiple save slots, so you can do that. Although I don't. There's no real. Well, okay. There's no. You don't really build yourself into a corner too much, especially not with the Digimon farm. Because I mentioned the Digivolution system, right? And of course, combat is just fun and everything. But combat is not the only way to level your Digimon. You can put them in the Digi farm. So what it is you go to the Digilab, which is also where you digivolve and de-digivolve your Digimon, right? You go to the Digilab and you tell me, right? You go to the Digifarm module and you tell me, right? Okay, I want these Digimon to go into this farm. I want these Digimon into this farm. And effectively, you can choose a leader who has a specific personality trait, and depending on the personality trait, if you choose to train that, have that farm undergo training, then that leader's stat, per stat plus whatever stats the personality of the Digimon in question of the other Digimon, those stats will go up. And depending on their ABI stat, that will determine how many stats can be boosted through training. And this actually helps towards Digivolution amounts. Increasing the stats through equipment does not count, but it does count when it comes to ABI training in that. So that's good. Also, even if you don't want to put them through a rigorous training course to increase their stats, you can just leave them in there. And this is especially awesome on the Switch because the Switch keeps the counter going and it keeps the in-game timer ticking up, and that equals exp in your uh in your for the Digimon in your lab. So you can literally on the Switch, which is what I play this on, you can literally put you can literally, if you, let's say you need to step out for a bit, right? You need to you're out of toilet paper or something, so you got to go run to run to the giant tiger that's just down the street. Giant Tiger is a Canadian store. It's a smaller uh, department store. That's the wrong term. It's essentially a smaller, whatever you would call a smaller scale grocery store, but anyways, it's a mini Walmart basically. Or let's say you gotta go run to Walmart because you're out of toilet paper. You're out of toilet paper. You're out of sugar for your coffee, and and you also need to make a stop by the gas station because your car is running low on gas, and you're like, yeah, well, I'm going out anyway. I might as well make a stop and get gas. That's it. Let's say that takes you roughly an hour. You come back to your game, and you're like, oh, okay, now those Digimon that I've left in the thing have now increased by like 3 to 4 levels or whatever. And that's the beauty of the Digifarm. The Digifarm is amazing, and I gave it all of the love. I heaped so much love on the Digifarm. It was fucking amazing. Let's see. I didn't write very many gameplay notes on this one. So, yeah. I really enjoyed the gameplay of this thing. Even going and doing all the random side quests. Not all of them are great, but I just like doing the side quests, and honestly, I also like leveling my characters. This is really the game that is one of the best examples for me of the zen of leveling, where I can just sit for hours and hours and hours and just level my Digimon over and over and over and over again. Some areas are much better for that than others, but man, it was just fun to go through. And to digivolve, and I actually filled out the field guide. I'm pretty sure my field guide is 100% complete. Because and there are very few games where I actually feel like I'm like where I would do something that ridiculous where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to fill out the field guide. Oh, another thing that I like about the field guides now that I've brought it up, you can actually see what the Digimon's base stats are for every level from 1 to 99. Yeah. Which, by the way, is not only helpful for, for planning out your battle team, but is also helpful for knowing what kind of stats you're going to go up against when it comes to enemy Digimon. Now, that's actually cool. I like that. Oh, I also oh yeah, there's actually one thing I forgot. Your guest character's Digimon, they're invincible, and the enemy's AI will be stupid enough to attack your ally every so often. So it's basically a dice roll of whether or not they are going to and an actual dice roll, not the Link Between Worlds baseball game crap. But it's generally a dice roll of whether or not. Oh, yeah, duh. Sorry, I don't know what the hell why I'm having such a bad brain fart. It's basically RNG of whether or not the opponent always rolls a dice to see if their AI script says attack the partner Digimon. I've had some times where the guest party member never got attacked. I've had times where the guest party member occasionally would get attacked, and then I've had a couple of battles where they were only ever smacking the guest character, which was just downright stupid because there's nothing. They take no damage. You know. They are literally Elizabeth from frickin' is it Elizabeth? The Bioshock Infinite escort person. Invincible and will constantly help you out at several points. Yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. That's all I have for gameplay. This game is just so much fun to play. Even if you find yourself not giving a shit about the story, which via through the lack of an English dub, the unskippable cutscenes, and just the very nature of a lot of this being kind of some of the story beats being kind of I can see that. I personally like this game, and I would play this over and over and over again. And excuse me, but I do kind of wish some of the stuff was skippable. At the bare minimum, I wish New Game Plus basically gave you the ability to skip the cutscenes. That would have been cool, and I would have been okay with that. Which is also, by the way, the easiest way for me to not only excuse unskippable cutscenes, but actually kind of add to New Game Plus's nuance and all that. But regardless, I am done talking about the gameplay. So let's go move on to the spoiler section now. So spoilers, 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 spoilers. Spoilers. Okay. I don't have a lot to discuss when it comes to the story of this game. But the reason why I wanted to discuss all of the story beats it's in the spoiler section is because there's two big reveals that happen, and I have to admit I didn't call either of them. That, of course, being the true identities of Yugo and Kishibe. Yugo was a nice twist. I, I now whether or not there's any coding you could make of the LGBT for the LGBT community. Let's face it, if you're doing any kind of coding on any of them, it's actually uh, it's actually Faye you're coding, not so much spoilers. Yuko, because Yuko doesn't seem to have a romantic interest in this game. Not really. We don't really know Yuko's thing. It's mostly just trying to pretending to be her brother in order to keep her brother's memory alive, which is hilarious because we actually rescue her brother, so that stops being even remotely necessary. But at the same time, it is what it is. I I honestly do like that we rescue Yugo, the real Yugo. Oh, in fact, I would argue the whole ending is triumphant, but we'll get to the ending later. Because we got to talk about the twist that Kishibe is actually Crusadermon. And yes, I will be by the way, I will be using the English names because yeah. I didn't mention that earlier, but I suppose the fact that I called him Omnimon and the fact that I called him Omnimon kind of did that. And obviously, I grew up with the anime, so the English dub of the anime, so I'm gonna be more familiar with the English names. I'm going to call him Myotismon, not Vetamon, for example, and so on and so forth. And it's Gatomon, not Tailmon, for me. I could keep going, but I'll stop. Then, but yeah, no. Crusadermon is the absolute worst character in this game. No question. It's just, you enemy must burn. Why? Because I'm completely out of my fucking mind. Okay. Ugh. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So let's move from the worst character in the game to my second favorite character, Suedo. Oh. By the way, the twist, actually, before we talk about Suedo, I should also mention Alphamon was Kurumi. I didn't see that one coming either, but that's kind of a cool twist. I love I love the scene where she transforms into Alphamon to reveal that to the audience. That was just cool. That was just cool. That was awesome, and it explains a lot. By the way, I really like that they foreshadowed that through the coffee. By the way, that was cool. Then, then there's Suedo. Suedo is very interesting in that he is a mad scientist, but he's not exactly evil. He's just self-centered. Now, what's funny is that you could look at his actions and say he is evil, but there's no real malice there. If you can intrigue him with heroism, he'll go for that. If you can intrigue him with evil, he'll go for that. It's all about what interests him, what makes him go, it's fascinating, right? He's, I don't want to say I would say amoral is kind of more of the idea. Because he's out for himself, but he's not actively trying to kill people. But he's not above being fascinated by for example, eaters just wrecking people and hurting them. But at the same time, he has a thirst for knowledge. And it's actually kind of interesting that the main character tries to save Suedo at the end. And even he can't fully understand that. Like, why? I've done all of this crap to you. You don't care. But, it's kind of fascinating in its own regard. Suedo is fascinating as an antagonist. And he is an antagonist, let's be honest with ourselves here. But he is the kind of antagonist where you don't really see him as the villain, you see him as the opponent. Not evil, just out for himself. If we want to classify him as a villain, then he is more David Xanatos than he is Lex Luthor. If you understand the distinction. And if you don't, which I realize that's kind of a weird comparison, but no, that comparison doesn't work. We'll just stick with my original. He's more David Xanatos than he is Lex Luthor. Now, what do I mean by this? In the TV show Gargoyles, Xanatos, played wonderfully by Jonathan Frakes, yes, Will Riker from Star Trek, is very much out for himself, and he's very much these are my goals, this is my plans and all of that, and I'm not above teaming up with villains and whatnot, and manipulating the gargoyles and all this other stuff. He is the villain. But he's not pure evil. No matter how much everybody tries to paint him as that. He is a villain for most of the thing, but he's more antagonist than evil villain. I would argue there are actually more evil things in the gargoyle setting than just him. He's just the most prominent villain. Hell, I would argue the most evil character in the entirety of Gargoyles is actually one of Xanatos' creations, ironically enough. Thalog. Ooh, Thalog is evil. Oh boy. Oof. But Xanatos is the kind of person who could turn who he can be on your side. Lex Luthor, on the other hand, will shank you if you even so much as look at him funny. And if you have just slightly more power than a human being, he wants you to die. Pretty much. Ugh. I almost feel like putting up Proton John's frickin' Lex Luthor profile that he did in his Superman 64 Let's Play.
Spectacular frame rate. Since I'm here, we go into this unlocked door, and then we get taunted by our evil arch nemesis, Lex Luthor.
I own Metropolis. My technology built it, my will keeps it going, and nearly 2/3 of its people work for me whether they know it or not. Even you have to admit it's a model of efficiency. And yet, I've often thought, why limit myself to just one city?
Lex Luthor is an asshole. No, really. Dude's a huge asshole. He doesn't have any superpowers, but that dude will shank you if you even look at him the wrong way. Alexander Joseph Luthor grew up in the slums of Metropolis and started his fortune by secretly signing his parents up for an insurance policy and then cutting the brakes in their car. He used the money from the insurance policy to go to MIT, where he got a master's degree in computer science, and then sold his technology patents to become a billionaire by age 20. Nowadays, Lex owns Metropolis and has the majority of criminals, politicians, and policemen in the city on his payroll. He fronts as a humanitarian so people don't know he's involved in any illegal activities, and Superman isn't able to get him arrested since Lex outsmarts him at every turn. He's basically the Kingpin from Marvel Comics, except he doesn't have to put up with Spider-Man cracking fat jokes every day. Lex was introduced in the comics 2 years after Superman debuted in 1938. Originally, he started off as a mad scientist who loved purple tights and stealing things. In fact, one time, when no one was looking, Lex Luthor stole 40 cakes. I know, he took 40 cakes! That's as many as 4 tens! And that's terrible. Eventually, comic book writers turned him away from his cake-stealing ways and turned him into the businessman the majority of people know him as today. He even got elected President of the United States in one comic series, which really begs the question, what the hell is wrong with people in comic books? Lex is easily the best known of Superman's villains. He's been featured in pretty much every live-action Superman movie and TV show, and he's been played by some big-name actors such as Gene Hackman and Kevin Spacey. In the cartoon, he's voiced by Clancy Brown, who played the main villain in the first Highlander movie, and voices Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants. Lex doesn't actually do anything at all in this game, except win. Constantly. He never loses. Ever. Even when it says Superman wins, Lex is still the winner because you're still trapped in the world. And don't even get me started on the ending of this game. Ugh, we're gonna get to that later. Lex was featured in 19 episodes of the cartoon.
I hope he finishes that someday. I really do. I'm fingers crossed that he'll finish that. But regardless, the Lex Luthor is just he's just an asshat. He's an asshole. He's a jerk, and he will kill you for the sake of killing you. He's just a frickin' jerk. Xanatos won't kill. If Xanatos kills you, that's because he needs you to die for whatever goal he has. Lex Luthor will just kill you because he wants you dead, and that's the end of that story. So that's why I say Suedo is more of a Xanatos than he is a Lex Luthor. Because Suedo wants there to be a purpose. He wants data, right? He's not above watching you die, but he wants to get something out of your death. He doesn't just want your death to be meaningless, even if your death is just a fascination, right? Being fascinated is his entire thing, right? I do like a lot of this of the smaller side stories, and even some of the side characters too. But there's one more character I want to talk about. I don't really have much to say about Kuremi, the Alpha Monad's Kuremi, or Detective Matayoshi, or even Date. Date just annoyed me. No, the character I really want to talk about, and I know some people might look at me funny for this, but my favorite character in the entire game is Nokia. Nokia is awesome. I don't have a better word for that. Nokia is... She is kind of the personification of people like me when we were growing up with the Digimon anime. We wanted to be Digidestined. We wanted to have Digimon pals ills at our side. Right? We wanted to kick the bad guy's ass and stand up for justice and be pals with the Digimon and all of this other stuff, right? Nokia, I hate to say it, this is going to sound like an insult, but I don't mean it as one. She's a teenager, and yet that works. It's not she's a teenager, therefore she's this arrogant fucking bitch, and she's gonna kick you in the balls, and none of that shit. None of that shit. No, Nokia is the kind of person who will, who if you're nice, if your goals align and you like Digimon, you're pals, and we're gonna fight together. Heather, right? She's she looks at this from the angle of the Digimon are sentient beings, damn it. And are sentient beings, damn it. And I'm going to help them. Nokia is basically learns that Digimon are sentient beings the fastest out of any of us, outside of maybe the MC. Now, granted, I'm also fighting with the event. I'm also kind of fighting hindsight because, well, I shouldn't say hindsight, but more like being familiar with the franchise, right? Because I know Digimon are sentient. I know they're sentient and sapient, right? Because I've seen the anime. I've watched the anime. I've I've watched 4 full seasons of the anime and dabbled in the 5th and uh watched caught a bit, back when I used to watch TV, caught a bit of the English dub of the 6th season Fusion. But regardless, Fusion Nokia is very much a she's in over her head. Let's just say that as nicely as we can. She is completely in over her head. But at no time do I ever did I ever feel like the game was mocking her for that. Because you know how that is. You know how that gets, right? This character is super naive. And they're mocked for it. Oh, you are so stupid and naive and yada yada yada, right? Now, granted, it's possible to take it in the opposite extreme. The naivete is the superpower that will save the universe. No, 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 no. This? This is the middle ground. Nokia is naive, and she will not be able to save the world with that naivete. But that naivete helps her see clearly because she's not blinded by the propaganda of the Kamashiro of Kishibe and the Kamashiro and Kamashiro Enterprises, but she's also not so ignorant of what they're doing that she doesn't that but she's not so ignorant that she thinks she can do it all alone. It's a middle ground. It's actually one of the things that I like, because us being on Nokia's side means her idealism can be tempered by our strategic prowess and everything. She can be the muscle because she pals around with freaking Omnimon, leader of the frickin' Royal Knights, and us, the Cyber Sleuth, the tactician, the main character. And that's why I like Nokia. Because Nokia feels very much like the passion of the team, the heart of the team. Nokia is the heart. Omnimon's the muscle. Kuremi and us and Kuremi, we're the brains. well, Kuremi's the brains, we're the leader, and then Arata is the lancer, of course. Right? I guess that makes Omnimon the big guy, doesn't it? If we're going by the 5-man band standards, because because you've got the leader, that's the MC. You got Nokia, who's the heart of the team. Him. You've got Omnimon, who's the muscle, and that's usually the big guy, and then Kuremi is the brains of the operation. Hmm. And yeah, Arata, of course, is the lancer who breaks off, does his own thing, and gets infested and gets infested, which still makes sense. That's not character assassination, but it's very very interesting. It's fascinating to see that play out. I love of all of that. Cyber Sleuth is one of my favorite games for a damned reason. And it's funny because it wasn't until I reviewed it that I realized no, this game is awesome. This is one of my favorite games of all time. Might only just barely qualify for that, but I still think it qualifies. That's actually longer than I thought I was going to go for this. So, yeah, that's all I got for this one. Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth. This is a really fun game. I highly recommend it. Get the complete edition, which is what you're getting if you go on, well, everything except PS4 at this point. But regardless, play this game. This is great stuff. I love it I love the pieces. Get it. Peace. Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. Later.